In the meantime, let's have a monologue. So on other networks, the Holocaust was mentioned 12 times over 3 days. Guess why?
I know they're being marched away to showers, or they're being told they are, just like the Nazis had said that they were taking people to showers and then they never came back.
Donald Trump increasingly looks like Hitler in Nazi Germany.
They are the tactics that have been used through history by the worst purveyors of pure evil, including slave traders, including Nazis, including terrorists.
Well, the images suggest those of concentration camps, families being cut apart.
All right. And let's not forget General Michael Hayden's tweet saying other governments separated families too, i.e. Nazi Germany. So temporarily housing kids makes the United States the Third Reich and our agents the SS. But other governments, does he mean Obama's? Here's a Washington Post headline from 2015. Mexican kids held for months as punishment for border crossing. And here's the president from 2014.
Our message absolutely is don't send your children unaccompanied on trains or through a bunch of smugglers. We don't even know how many of these kids don't make it and may have been waylaid into sex trafficking or killed because they fell off a train.
He's absolutely right, which is why Trump stepped up the arrests of adults for violating immigration laws and also busting child sex traffickers. Yet no one compared President Obama to Nazis. But now they offend Holocaust victims, survivors, and Americans in charge of taking care of these kids while they're here. Right, Wolf?
Do you understand the controversy that any comparison to the Holocaust? Yes, the kids were brought in the trains to Birkenau, which was at Auschwitz. I speak with some authority on this. My grandparents were murdered at Auschwitz, and my dad survived, but 2 of his brothers and 2 of his sisters were killed at Auschwitz. They were separated. They weren't separated to go to some other facility. They were separated to die.
Well done, Wolf. Fact is, this problem is born from a larger, broken system. And now we're trying to solve long-term and short-term crises at once. It's like plugging a hole in a boat while you're rowing. Some people saw it coming. Remember when we tried to help countries under the thumbs of anti-capitalists? Folks who stopped that are now shocked to see people fleeing those very countries. And now everyone is alive with condemnation, but pressed for an alternative, they got nothing. And we're waiting for one, something no White House before has actually produced. So we all agree separation sucks. But when faced with child sex trafficking and a tripling of pretend families, where is your answer? Instead, the media uses children to maintain the narrative that Trump is evil, even as he reduces the threat of nuclear war, and with no memory of what they reported when their guy was president. Donna, do you agree that I think the White House is saying that this is an emotional political ploy?
Well, first of all, I looked at the president's favorite newspaper today, and this is the New York Post.
Yes.
So they've
changed, Donna.
Yeah. Well, look. This is about the separation of children from their families. And while President Obama did have a policy that basically sent people back across the border, it was very rare that he separated children from their family. This is a policy change that the Trump administration put in place 6 weeks ago. They should change it.
What's the alternative, though?
The U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce today came out with a bold statement. These are not your typical liberal progressive papers or organizations. And everyone is saying it is time to end this policy, Mr. President. Let's figure out a way to have comprehensive immigration reform. Let's bring more judges to the border. Let's bring more border patrol. But let's end the policy of separating children from their parents.
Here's the issue, though. If we can't separate them, that's what we do in America when someone goes to jail. You have to separate them, and no one is offering a solution. I think we're making a wrong comparison here, Dana. The alternative is the possibility being with a child sex trafficker. Like this may not be a good, this is a terrible alternative, but this is actually a worse alternative.
Right. So I do think there are some specific alternatives to change this, which it would be to plan ahead. There's money to be allocated, and then try to house these families together. Or I like your idea. Everybody goes back together on a bus. You don't want to be separated? Okay, fine. Everybody get on the bus and you're across the border. If you do it again, it's a felony and you will be separated. Something like that would be like, okay, we don't want to do that. And I agree that the people who are being tasked with carrying out the 6-week-old policy, they don't want to have to do it, but they are carrying out the request of the president. This is the policy. And then also, I do think that there's this narrow path. So Ted Cruz has an option. I guess the president will probably talk about it. He doesn't like it because it just deals with this particular issue. But he might just have to be for what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
And take that part, get that off the table. Maybe get some additional judges, because I think the other thing is that we should talk about, and it's difficult to talk about for me, I think, is that what's the asylum process and what's the bar?
Right.
And because it's very easy to say, okay, well, then I claim asylum, and then you have this huge backlog, and then you have this problem. I also think that if you're going to have this policy and you want to own it, then plan ahead and figure out what's the process of getting the children back in touch with their families, because the reports of them not being able to do so is difficult. And the last thing I would say is we have to figure out a way to collectively go after the drug cartels and not each other, because it's actually the drug cartels that is fueling a lot of this.
Right. I don't think, Jesse, it's hard to defend separation, but if it's preferable to an increase in child, if you don't know if these are real families, what can you do? You've got to separate them before you find out if they're legitimately a family.
Yeah, I mean, whether the Democrats realize it or not, doing what they want to do actually helps the child smugglers, and no one wants that. And Ted Cruz has a bill. It's right here. It's piecemeal. He says families get united, we double the number of immigration judges, an asylum case takes 14 days. That keeps everything together. Why don't the Democrats, like Crying Chuck, just get on board with this piecemeal bill, send it to the president's desk? They could do that right now, but they don't want to do it because they want to exploit it. Dianne Feinstein has legislation, which is absolutely ridiculous. She says Border Patrol agents can't even arrest and detain an adult with a child illegal within 100 miles of the southern border. What's that going to do? That's just going to encourage more people from bringing in children into the southern hemisphere. So, Kate Steinle was also separated by her family with a bullet fired by an illegal alien felon who was deported 5 times. And the Democrats didn't really say much about that. So when they complain now, it's like hard to take seriously. No one wants to see families separated. I don't want to see families separated, but fix the law. Fix the law. He's not going to end catch and release. That's not happening.
Well,
okay?
Jesse, back in December of last year, I don't know if you were planning your holidays, but I wasn't. But what President Trump put in place back in December was a policy that, as you know, Attorney General Sessions announced just 6 weeks ago, was to prosecute everybody and then find out later if they're part of a gang, part of a cartel, part of trafficking. What Senator Feinstein and others are saying would keep families together is that keep them together. Now, there's
laws that say you can't do that, Donna, and you know that.
Well, this is a policy change. This is a policy change.
The 97 law says you can't hold a minor for more than 20 days. And the 2008 deal, because of the smugglers, you can't house them in federal detention facilities
together. Keep the families intact. This is a simple strategy. Keep the families intact, and then you go through the vet process.
Let me get Kimberly in on this.
Let's do it that way.
You know the law, and you know.
Yeah, and I think that, there's really a concerted effort to distort really what's going on here for political purposes. I mean, at the heart of it, people do care about children. We care about families. But you have to understand how we arrived in this position, which is people breaking the law. And even if we put them on the bus back, who's to say that they're not with a sex trafficker and you return them back with that person? What we're at least trying to do here in a responsible way and in a careful way is identify who the child is, the minor, who is the adult accompanying the child, and make sure that in fact there is a match and that they are a relative and properly should be in that person's, I guess like custody, so to speak, and, parental rights. This is very difficult. I have a hard time, though, accepting that it's okay to demonize ICE agents and Border Patrol and the president and the administration, all saying that they're mean-spirited and they want children abused.
Or they're Nazis.
Or Nazis and cages and all of these things. I mean, this is a very tough problem. That's why immigration is important for them to address in a responsible way. But again, the laws must be upheld and there must be some procedure by which they are identified properly so as to not make mistakes. Can you imagine the outrage if we went ahead and let somebody go with a sex offender and really encouraged, and we're acting essentially in concert, aiding and abetting sex trafficking? How irresponsible the United States. They don't care about children. They just let them go with anybody, and then the child, God forbid, ends up raped or tortured or murdered or something like that.
We should have zero tolerance on that. Let's go to Donald Trump. He had some comments today regarding this issue and the media bias regarding it.
Those who apply for asylum legally at ports of entry are not prosecuted. The fake news media back there doesn't talk about that. They are helping these smugglers and these traffickers like nobody would believe. That when countries abuse us by sending their people up, not their best, we're not going to give any more aid to those countries. Why the hell should we? Someday they're going to vote for Democrats. Because they can't win on their policies, which are horrible. Their only policy was that Donald Trump is a bad guy, hundreds of millions of dollars of negative ads. Nobody's ever been hit like that. I used to go home, I started disliking myself. It's true.
And it's hard to believe, Dana.
That's hard to do, almost impossible.
You probably never heard of John Kerry and how he was swift-footed. So,
that is true.
That's true. But you know, when Bob Corker, Orrin Hatch, Lamar Alexander, John McCain, Susan Collins, Ben Sasse, I mean, I have a whole list
But
of
none of them have
Republicans.
solutions.
But they
Yeah,
are.
I think they do.
Yes.
I haven't heard one.
They do.
You don't think that Ted Cruz
No, Ted
does
Cruz, yes. But all the ones that are now
But
doing
they
the
are supporting
outrage
his show.
signaling all over Twitter, I won't mention the politicians' names, but they're all outrage signaling, and they're all so solemn about it, but they have the first part, they hate it, which we all do. The second part, what do you do about it? Silence.
But the actual members that she just listed, they're all supporting the Cruz bill.
Well, that's good.
Well,
That's a start.
Look, first of all, I want to go back to what you said at the top of the show. American slavery and the Holocaust, they were absolutely evil events. And while people often use them to describe the pain or describe the degradation and dehumanization, these were absolutely evil events. What people are saying now is that they think that this compares to that. I try to tell people, don't do it.
Exactly.
Don't go there.
Yes.
But at the same time, we have to call this an outrageous act because these kids are being abused.
Well, I don't
They're
know.
being separated from their families.
Right.
You have children. You are
I
a
do.
father.
I do.
Where's your bracelet?
In most cases, Donna, if someone comes across with a minor, they're only separated for a day.
Doesn't
if you
matter.
apply for asylum, that's going to take longer than 20 days.
Yeah.
And the law says, based on the Clinton administration and upheld by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, you can't hold a minor longer than 20
But
days.
that's why Ted Cruz says 14 days.
Right, and that's why he lowered it to 14.
Right.
And what the Obama administration got whacked for was they were sending these young kids to sponsors or uncles somewhere within the interior of the United States, and these kids were being abused, made to work slave wage jobs,
or they were sent back.
and
it was
malnourished.
rare. It was rare.
No,
that
but
they
it
were
was happening,
separated.
and that's why we're trying to take care of the kids.
I remember that period.
And that's the most important thing, taking care of the children.
We have to take care of the children.
But
We all agree on
I'm
that.
trying to figure out, what is the solution that prevents the separation again? I'm just trying to figure this out. Because if 10,000 people, if 10,000 of these kids are unaccompanied, they're already separated.
Right.
So that leaves 2,000. So what are they doing now?
Right now, when someone crosses with a minor,
Yeah.
and there's no prior history of anything like that, and they're not claiming asylum,
Right.
they detain them
Yeah.
for a day, prosecute them, reunite them with the kid, and then send them back.
Right.
But if you apply for
You mean
asylum,
process.
process. That's going to take them forever. Asylum cases
charged
take
with a misdemeanor.
forever.
And then they get to
president
speak on the
and-
phone to the parent. To
The
their
president needs to understand that this is a crisis that he can resolve tonight with a
Yeah,
pen.
everybody could actually resolve it. There's the Democrats and
can't.
the Republicans.
No, the president. He has the pen.
Well, he's the first guy to actually try. And that's interesting.
What do you mean? The first guy to actually try, people have tried comprehensive immigration reform before.
Yeah,
which would
but
have dealt with this particular issue.
I think this particular issue is directly related to a porous border, correct?
It's a strategy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's a strategy to try to get a compromise, and this is a bad strategy.
Well, you can disagree with the strategy, but you cannot disagree with the fact that
Porous border.
this guy is trying
wall.
to tighten the border.
We all know that we have a problem.
Yeah.
Comprehensive immigration reform, we need it.
I agree. See, we can all agree here. Let's go for drinks. President Trump heading to Capitol Hill for a major meeting with Republicans on immigration. We'll bring it to you live. And Michael Horowitz getting grilled by lawmakers for a second day over his IG report on the Clinton email probe. The latest, that's next.
Trey Gowdy was very good.
DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz facing off with lawmakers again today over his report on the Clinton email investigation. Republican lawmakers pressing Horowitz over revelations of FBI bias.
They prejudged the outcome of the Hillary Clinton investigation before the investigation ended, and these exact same FBI agents and attorneys prejudged the outcome of the Russia investigation before it even began.
Do you believe this text shows political bias?
I think as we found, it clearly shows a biased state of mind.
February and March of 2016, Peter Strzok said, Trump's abysmal, Trump's an idiot, he's a bleeping idiot, Hillary should win 100 million to 0. Sounds to me like he hates the president.
His text messages would certainly leave that as the implication.
Horowitz confirming to Congress he's investigating whether embattled FBI official Peter Strzok anti-Trump bias factored into the launch of the Bureau's Russia probe. Strzok's lawyer is also firing back against criticism, saying his client is not a conspirator, but instead, ready, a patriot. All right, Kimberly, we're just getting word from Strzok's lawyer. Apparently he's been escorted out of the FBI office building today.
Well, I hope after listening to Trey Gowdy today that he speed dialed the best Washington D.C. defense lawyer, and I mean that seriously, because if you listen to Trey earlier today, it was quite compelling and persuasive. He was quite insistent and really fired up about the whole thing. And when I was listening to him, it's like, wow, he's really kind of made the case against not only Strzok but Comey, and McCabe. And Page, and it's bad. I mean, it's really bad for the United States, bad for the FBI, the system of justice. And, Trey Gowdy kept making the point, there can be no fairness in the process with this level of inherent bias.
Very, very biased. And we're now learning that there were more FBI agents who were sending anti-Trump texts, and one, maybe two of those lawyers wound up in the Mueller team. Dana? I mean, this Mueller team is just packed full of these people at this point, and they were removed for anti-Trump tests by Mueller only 3 or 4 months ago, though.
Yeah, can I tell you something?
Yes.
I didn't follow that particular piece of it because I was following immigration all day. I did note that today Catherine Herridge said that Peter Strzok could actually willingly testify in front of Congress by the end of the week.
That'll be
possibly.
big.
So yeah, I will pay attention to that, I promise.
Okay, I think we all will. Greg, what do you think about the IG hearing?
Well, first of all, I believe that Strzok's texts are more incriminating in terms of conspiracies than anything in the Russian collusion thing. I was trying to think about this. What would be comparable to writing "Stop Trump"? Would be Trump texting, "Call Putin. We've got to stop Hillary." That would be the smoking gun. But the big story to me is always going to be Trey Gowdy's ever-changing hair.
I knew it.
He's like Martin Landau in Mission Impossible. He has a suitcase full of sideburns and goatees, or like he's in The Americans. It's like he's got to go somewhere. He is a Russian agent. Trey Gowdy. That is not how he looks.
Say CIA or something.
No, I think he works for the Russians.
He's a national man of mystery. And by the way, I think the beard is very becoming, although his politics sometimes is not so becoming. Look,
yes.
I actually did watch it. It's better than watching soap opera in the middle of the day. And the reason why I watched it is because underneath all of the partisan rhetoric about the IG report, we learned that, once again, we have an agency that has some dysfunction. And whether you focus on those emails, texts, disgusted. I'm a former federal employee. Disgusting. Let's just say it. Disgusting.
Disgusting.
It's disgusting whether it's saying those things about Mr. Trump or saying those things about Ms. Clinton. They are not hired to text each other about their personal dislike of a particular candidate, blah, blah, blah. That being said, the Office of Professional Responsibility must now do their job and remove those who are still in the employment of the federal government. Beyond that, I think this report tells us a lot about Mr. Comey's state of mind, the fact that he was insubordinate, the fact that he believed that he alone could deliver the so-called message to the American people, didn't have to check with his boss. Yeah. So there's a lot to learn in this. I haven't read all of it because, as you know, there are no pictures. But I read faster when I see pictures, but it is a story that we need to know. And by the way, you and I can have a conversation about the Russians, and I can speak a little bit of the language now because I do believe that we need to get to the bottom of what happened in 2020.
Well, I'm married to a Russian, so I can speak a little.
And speaking of Comey, the Inspector General confirmed that Comey's handling of the classified memos is under investigation. So everyone's under investigation at this point.
You will be soon.
Are we going to do another kumbaya at the end of this segment?
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah, sure.
Can we agree, though?
Yes, the FBI is in complete dysfunction.
Can we agree, though, that these things, they're like soccer? It's like 0-0 at halftime. Like when you're watching these things, it's like soccer.
Did you prepare that
0-0 at halftime.
I don't know if this was a tie. I think this was a slam dunk by the.
But then the next one will be.
You wait till minute 38 and the guy scores, and you're like, "Thank you, I want to turn this."
It's like soccer
off.
where you cheer a pass.
Yeah. Well, I think Trey Gowdy scored today.
Yeah. Well, with
not just because of his
goatee.
All right. Not so popular, Nancy Pelosi. The surprising world leader, Republicans say they prefer over Nancy. Next.
Announcing the U.S. is pulling out of the United Nations Human Rights Council. Pompeo, along with U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, breaking the news just moments ago.
Human rights abusers continue to serve on and be elected to the council. The world's most inhumane regimes continue to escape scrutiny. And the council continues politicizing and scapegoating of countries with positive human rights records in an attempt to distract from the abusers in their ranks. We take this step because our commitment does not allow us to remain a part of a hypocritical and self-serving organization that makes a mockery of human rights.
All right, for more on this story, stay tuned to Special Report at 6 p.m. tonight. In the meantime, a week after the landmark summit in Singapore, some surprising data is emerging about America's partisan divide. A new Ipsos Daily Beast poll finds that Democrats view President Trump more unfavorably than Kim Jong-un. 88% to 81%. Now, on the other side of the aisle, the North Korean dictator is more popular than Nancy Pelosi among Republicans, 19% to 17%. Greg, chew on that.
I don't like it when people compare Trump to Hitler. Pelosi, she's unpopular. Maybe she's out of touch, but she's no dictator. So I'm not a big fan of these things. Yeah. What she is, though, is she's the master queen of a majestic dystopia. She lives like in this cloud castle in California, way above the overpass shanties that reek of feces and are riddled with disease. You have Hollywood right now doing like The Handmaid's Tale and all these dystopian shows. Why don't they do something on this? Because this is real. In California, she oversees a horror world of hell. I just had a friend get back from San Francisco. It was not a pretty sight. It's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
Oh, wait,
they have a new mayor, though.
Wait a minute. Thank you. They got a new mayor, London
Are they
Breed.
changing it?
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
Like
I'm from there. It's so depressing. It's depressing.
I love Hogs Island and then Bacadero. I like to go and get some oysters. It's a great city. Look. People vilify Nancy Pelosi because they don't like the fact that she's a strong leader, effective leader. She is tough. Now, you ever want to get in the ring with somebody? Mm-hmm. Get in the ring with Nancy. Yeah, I'll bring you the Band-Aids, okay? She is effective.
I might enjoy it, though.
Okay, I'm not going to get there. You called me Brazil nut. I don't want to show you my macadamia side. Because I may have to do a Macarena with you. But she's been in public life since 1981. And look at her Wikipedia page. She has no scandals. I mean, no scandals.
She scrubs it. Donna, she scrubs it. She scrubs the page.
Bleach bit.
Yes, she bleached it.
No, she's tough. She's an admirable person, and she is going to lead the Democrats to victory.
Well, I don't think she's that tough because she wouldn't do an interview with me. And I tried about a dozen times. She's got an entourage the size of North Korea, and they won't let anybody near her. But the poll is a garbage poll. All they do is they poll these people independently, and then they mash it up to make everybody look like monsters.
Right.
There is a problem, though. It's demonization in this country.
Yes,
I'm a victim of it. People on the left think I'm some crazy menace to society.
Babe, I've been
you knows how delightful I am.
I think you're a menace to society.
All I know is
and you know me.
Yes.
I showed up yesterday.
His Wikipedia page.
When I showed up
if anything needs to be scrubbed,
Jesse,
it's that.
Yeah. You're smiling more.
Yes.
You need to have more Democrats around you because you're smiling more. I see that inner, that inner
You're bringing
side
out the
of
smile.
You. Yeah, I'm bringing out the
happiness. Because I know something you don't know.
Oh, boy.
Ooh, he's trying to separate me from my joy. Don't do that.
I would never.
But she's a great leader, and I think the Democrats are lucky to have her leadership. Now, that's
and so are the Republicans.
And look, that's not to say that this fall we're going to elect a whole new group of Democratic leaders, and we'll see what kind of change they bring. But I know she's brought about a lot of change.
Dana, what do you think about this?
Of the poll, I mean, like, put me firmly in the camp of with Nancy Pelosi over Kim Jong-un. But I think that, yeah, I think you're right. It's a garbage comparison because you actually don't really have to choose.
Right.
You're just like, oh, I like her. Like, it's like to poke her in the eye.
Well, they could do it for,
yeah.
You know.
It's like for a laugh.
Make a laugh. Yeah, exactly. We weren't saying this was highly scientific or anything. That comes up at 6 p.m.
We do the weird polls.
Yeah, we do the weird stuff. We're like, plug this in.
What's next? Are puppies better than kittens?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's our E-block.
You don't need to pull that.
Yes.
We have probably done that segment, actually. Okay. All right. Well, an anti-Trump Senate candidate comes out blazing, wow, to prove a point. Will Democrats' midterm messaging go up in smoke? Next.
Baby, I'm worth it. I'm worth it. Gimme, I'm worth it.
That's all like we did then.
President Trump just arriving at the Capitol to meet with Republican lawmakers amid the growing controversy over separating migrant children at the border. This as Democrats are gearing up to use President Trump's immigration agenda as a rallying cry for the midterms. But will their strategy work? A new Gallup poll shows the president's job approval hitting a new high of 45%. Meanwhile, Richard Painter, a Democrat running for Senate in Minnesota, literally fans the flames of discontent in his campaign ad. Watch this.
So nuts.
Some people see a dumpster fire and do nothing but watch the spectacle. Some are too scared to face the danger, or they think it will benefit them if they just let it keep on burning. There is an inferno raging in Washington. But here in the land of 10,000 lakes, we know how to put out a fire.
Oh, my God.
Donna, Richard Painter's now going to run as a Democrat in Minnesota for the Senate seat. How are you feeling about the chances there?
Well, you know, as somebody who grew up admiring Walter Mondale and Hubert Humphrey, and of course many other leaders in Minnesota, that's strange. I know he's
strange.
Yeah, we got a lot of people that can put out the fire in Washington D.C. Look, he's going to go up against Tina Smith, who was appointed by the governor. She's done a phenomenal job since coming on board these last couple of months. It's going to be a tough race. But let me just tell you, overall, 139 days until the midterms. And I have to tell you, it's going to be a horse race. But this time, the Democrats are not facing what I call a headwind. There's a little bit of what I call cool breeze backing these new Democratic candidates into what I call the victory zone.
Yeah, the weird thing, Kimberly, for me is that we don't know what the issues are going to be, even the week before the election.
Correct.
If you think about it, a week ago today, we did a segment about the North Korean summit.
Yes.
And it feels like a lifetime ago. So we don't know what's going to happen, but when do you think things will start to firm up for either party?
In this political day and age, no. You can't even predict it because every day there's something that's like, explosive story, something going on. I mean, for sure, I think the economy is going to play a big role. I think the Democrats would like to really seize the opportunity to push this immigration issue forward and say there's a war on children, et cetera, and try to do that to really motivate their base and get people out to vote and make it a game changer.
It might not work, Greg.
It's not working so far.
It might have the opposite effect of.
It seems like everything that's directed at Trump ends up having the opposite effect because I know it's amazing because he's a counterpuncher. He'll be right back. I have to say that Painter thing was highly visual, but that's not the story. It was his insane delivery. I mean, it's like he was clenching a pencil between his butt cheeks.
I think that's his normal way. I mean, I worked with him at the White House for a little bit. Yeah, he kind of talks like that.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
If that guy was talking to me like that, I would leave.
How do you think he'll do in the debate, Jesse?
I don't care. I think he'll go down in flames like the dumpster fire he showed. If anything's a dumpster fire, it's the Democratic Party. I mean, they're so far out of power. Not since Eisenhower. I think they've never been this out of power. They're out of ideas, out of leaders, out of money, out of touch. And the president's in the strongest position he's been since he was inaugurated, 45% approval. Can you imagine how well he'd be doing without the special counsel and the media and their constant attacks? He's in a better position politically than President Obama was 2 years in at this point. So I think the headwinds that you see are going to be blowing in a different
We'll give
direction.
Donna the last word.
Well, let me just say this. The Democrats have flipped 47 seats. We're going to flip more seats. There's a wealth of new candidates running. They're being self-funded by the grassroots support that's out there. I feel confident this year, not because of the polls. I feel confident because we have a message. And we're going to talk about the...
And what is that message?
The message is we deserve better. We want an economy that
we
works.
deserve better.
We want... That's right.
I hadn't heard that one.
How do you get a better economy than this?
We want an
Jobs
economy that
numbers.
works for everyone, an economy that lifts up wages
Well, it
as
is.
well as
How can
an
that be?
This
Make
economy
America
is
great.
lifting up wages.
An economy that brings people from the outskirts of hope back into the circle of opportunity. Democrats have a strong bread and butter message.
But it's pretty good. You've got record low unemployment for blacks, women, minorities. So I mean, we've got more jobs than we have people to fill them. That sounds like winning to me.
It doesn't.
Okay. I'm going to get the last word because guess what? You know Richard Painter in the ad?
Yeah.
Do you know what's on tonight at 8 p.m. with Tucker Carlson?
Who, Richard Painter?
Richard Painter's going to be on, so that will be must-see TV.
That'll be a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it'll be big. All right, are millennials as bad as everyone thinks they are, Jesse? Or are they just getting a bad rap? The answer is next.
Have you ever wondered if millennials are turning into a generation of misfits? Well, there's data suggesting they just might be. A new study says this group of Americans are the worst when it comes to tipping. Nearly 2/3 of millennials typically leave below the standard 20% when eating out. Another survey claims that IQ scores of millennial men are plunging to new lows. And UK scientists say people in their 20s and 30s are on track to be less happy and healthy than their parents by the time they reach middle age. My God. Jesse, Jesse.
Yes.
I know you're not a millennial, but baby, I got a tip chart, okay?
Yes.
Because if you and I go out,
Yes.
I know you're married.
Yes.
I want you to make sure you do the tip, okay? So I'm giving you my
Oh, wait,
tip.
I'm paying?
Hell yeah, baby.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm paying.
Yeah.
And I will tip 20% because I have to tip a lot because people might know me and then I don't want to get a bad rap.
That's right.
That's true.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's funny.
But what about this IQ thing? Because I find, I teach at Georgetown, and my kids are really bright, both the guys and the girls. So I don't know about this IQ thing. They say that something is happening with millennial men.
I don't speak for millennial men, but
You're the closest thing I'm coming to one at the
when
table.
you live in your parents' basement, you might not be, I think, performing up to expectations in your dating life or your professional life. So I think that's having an effect on their brain power.
Like the guy was on your show. That was like.
Okay, can I respond to this? I'm not a millennial, Donna, but I have to defend them. There's too many stories out there bashing millennials. By the way, the headline was millennial men were getting dumber, right? Imagine the headline, millennial women are getting dumber. That person would be fired. But you can say men are dumb every generation, and we'll take it. Here's my point.
Male rights advocate, Greg Gutfeld.
Yes, every generation has it easier because the progress is handed to them by the previous generation. And so we're always a little bit jealous of them because they got it easier, but we actually made it easier.
Yeah.
So, and we'll be that way. The next people, the millennials will laugh at them.
Yeah.
Right. I think.
All I know is that this new generation of Americans will have enormous political power. There are more of them than ever before. And if they turn out and vote.
So it's going to be a bunch of dumb men voting. Is that what you're saying?
Dumb men that don't tip.
No, I'm telling them to please tip. But Dana, what's your experience with millennials?
Well, I actually am I'm one of the people, I love them. I think they're very eager and earnest, and they do sort of drive me crazy on several different things. If I were to give them any advice, as I was a waitress for a long time.
So was
For
I.
example, if you go to breakfast, always double the tip. Make it 40%, because breakfast is the hardest meal. And because everyone wants their coffee a certain way, the eggs
It's also cheaper.
It's so cheap.
Well, not if you have a liquid brunch in Midtown.
Okay.
Be a couple $100.
Not in Manhattan.
But it is weird. But I do think that, and millennials are driving this idea that maybe we should all do away with tipping policy altogether.
That's
and I think that's a terrible idea, and I think we should do a segment on that and the economics of it, because
I agree.
it's a bad idea.
Well,
Tipping is what keeps restaurants alive.
Yep.
Sorry.
Maybe they just don't have as much money.
Yeah, the Obama economy really hurt a lot of these millennials, and they don't have the disposable income.
We can turn anything that way. Tag team, Jesse.
There it is.
Break that up. What I like most about this generation is that they care about this country, and they are a service generation. I'm proud of them.
They will be serving us.
We're going to keep them.
When we get old.
At the villages.
Them and the robots.
At the villages.
Yeah, at the villages.
Well, turning 29 for the second time, I feel their power.
Happy birthday.
Word. All right.
And now you get to say the fabulous saying.
Oh, one more thing is coming up next. I'm so happy I'm a millennial today.
You speak somewhere this weekend?
Oh,
Tell us
Greg,
something.
thank
Tell
you
us
for
more.
asking and being so absorbed with my life.
Yes, well, I stalk you.
Yeah, well, that's a true story. So I had the pleasure of being in Dallas this weekend, and there I am coming out to confetti, dancing to J-Lo, Let's Get Loud, at the Young Women's Leadership Summit. It was fantastic. It's Turning Point USA, and there was a couple thousand young women there, as you can see, and I'm somewhere in the center looking like a little dot, taking pictures with them. They were amazing, and it was just wonderful to see young women like so engaged and excited about the political process and their beliefs. And
millennials.
Yeah, I mean, they're really, yes, and that's the female millennials.
Did you cut a rug? Did you cut a rug?
Yes, you know I did. They loved it. They were like chanting for Mama.
I don't know about you, Jesse. I find this sexist. Oh, a bunch of women getting together. Somehow that's. What about men?
Anyway, just real quick, Janine Pirro was there too. You know, Kat Timp, Dana Lash, Katie Pavlich, Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, who runs it, and Ronna McDaniels and Kellyanne Conway, and it was fabulous. So
And Ben Shapiro was there. Not a woman, but he was there at the Women's Leadership Conference.
Thank you for pointing that out.
I didn't see him.
Give awards
All right.
out.
Jesse, you're next.
So I guess Jimmy Kimmel challenged Senator Ted Cruz to a basketball game, and it was probably the worst basketball ever. And they actually had to stop. They were going to 15. They stopped because they got so tired. Cruz ended up winning and beating him 11-9, I believe. And it was just a pathetic display. I'm going to suspend the View strategy. I'm going to criticize Jimmy Kimmel here, even though I might appear on his show at some point down the line. That was not good basketball, and you challenged Cruz, and you lost to Ted Cruz in basketball.
But it was for charity.
Not a good look for charity.
Hey, just because it's for charity
is.
doesn't make it good.
Got it.
That's
Oh
my
my
T-shirt.
Gosh, I hold back on the printing of that.
It's a good tip. Just because it's for charity doesn't make it good is a great slogan for a T-shirt. All right, I'm going to shut
So
up.
I need a new little graphic
Dana.
of Dana's reading list, but
oh my
I'll just show you. This is Atia Abawi. Okay. Do you know Connor Powell? He's one of our reporters. He's our Middle East reporter. He is married to Atia, and she has written a novel called A Land of Permanent Goodbyes that I read last weekend, Jesse, and it was spectacular.
Wow.
I have to say. So it's about the refugee crisis. It follows a fictional character, but based on a lot of research of his harrowing escape from Raqqa because of ISIS, and then leaving Turkey to try to cross. And I won't tell you what it is, but there's a surprise of who the narrator is. It is very creative, very effective. I've never seen it.
Is it a dog?
Before. It is not a dog.
Okay.
It does start with a D, but it is not a dog. I encourage you to read it. It's really good.
I'm going to put that on my list, Dana.
Yes.
Did you
the
tweet
list of
this
books
yet?
you don't read.
Instagram.
That's a good film monologues.
Good. It looks good. Well,
Wait, I'm not. Donna, how dare you?
Baby, you invited me.
Hold on, I have to hate people.
Yeah, he has to hate people first.
I hate these people. All right, I killed my one more thing.
Richard
Can I show you a picture of something? That's my mug. Today, I found out that my mug has been stolen. Now, I'm not going to accuse Donna Brazile, even though coincidentally she is here and my mug is missing. But I am not going to accuse you. I think it was a guest on Fox and Friends because they have anybody on that show. And they show up, they walk into we share the green room, they see my mug. I know it's a guest from Fox and Friends. I will find you. I will hunt you down. It will not be pretty. Okay?
You know why you're saying that too? Because it's not like Hammer and Sandra. They're in a different studio, 9 to 12.
No, they